I want to start by saying I'm not a dramatic person. I've never been the type to cause scenes, make enemies, or play office politics. For 6 years at Meridian Consulting in Manchester, I kept my head down, did excellent work, and genuinely believed that doing the right thing would eventually be enough. Her name was Danielle Marsh. She sat 3 desks to my left for 4 of those 6 years, and for most of that time, I considered her a friend. We had lunch together. I helped her prep for her performance reviews. When her mum got ill, I covered 2 of her client accounts without being asked. I did it because that's who I am. The first sign something was wrong came on a Monday morning in February. I arrived at my desk at 8:47 a.m. Same as always, coffee in hand, and found my access badge wasn't working. I assumed it was a system glitch. I knocked on the glass door. The receptionist, a new girl named Priya, looked at me with this strange, uncomfortable expression and called upstairs. Our operations manager, Keith Bramwell, came down within 5 minutes. He was a tall man who always looked like he'd rather be somewhere else, and that morning was no different. He told me, and I'm quoting directly, "We received your resignation letter last Thursday. HR has already processed it. Today's technically your last day of access." I stood there in the lobby of a company I had given 6 years of my life to, holding a coffee that was going cold, completely unable to speak. I had not resigned. I had not written any letter. I had not even been looking for other jobs. In fact, just 2 weeks prior, I had submitted a proposal for a major new client project that my entire team was excited about. Keith showed me the letter on his tablet. My name, my employee ID, my department. The language was professional and polite, citing personal reasons and thanking the company for the opportunity. It was formatted exactly the way our internal HR documents were formatted. But there were 2 things wrong immediately. First, I never used the phrase "going forward." It's a habit I've actively hated for years. The letter used it 3 times. Second, my email signature always includes my direct line extension. This letter's signature had a different number, a number I didn't recognize. I told Keith these things. He looked unconvinced but not unkind. He said HR policy required them to process resignations as submitted unless there was evidence of fraud. He gave me a temporary visitor pass to retrieve my personal belongings and said I was welcome to raise a formal dispute. I went to my desk. Danielle wasn't in yet. I packed my things slowly, deliberately, partly because I was in shock and partly because something in my gut was already telling me to look around, to pay attention, to remember. Here's what almost nobody at Meridian knew. 3 months earlier, after a laptop was stolen from a colleague's desk over a weekend, our team lead had quietly installed a small secondary webcam on the shelf above the main printer alcove, the one that faced most of our open plan workspace. It was meant to deter theft. It wasn't advertised. It wasn't hidden maliciously. It just sat there, quietly recording on a motion loop, overriding every 72 hours unless manually saved. I had helped install it. I knew the login credentials. And before I handed in my visitor pass that morning, I stopped at the printer alcove, opened the camera's web interface on my phone, and scrolled back to Thursday, the day my resignation was apparently submitted. At 6:14 p.m., 47 minutes after most of the floor had cleared out, Danielle Marsh sat down at my desk. She used a key, a physical key, to open my locked desk drawer. She removed something. She sat at my workstation for 11 minutes. Then she left, taking whatever she had removed with her and locking the drawer behind her. 11 minutes. That's how long it took her to destroy 6 years of my career. I saved the footage to my personal cloud immediately. Then I walked out of Meridian Consulting for what I thought might be the last time, already planning every single next move. I didn't go home and fall apart, even though every part of me wanted to. Instead, I drove to a Costa Coffee on Deansgate, ordered the largest thing on the menu, and sat in the corner with a notepad, old-fashioned, paper and pen. I didn't trust anything digital at that point. What I knew, Danielle had accessed my desk unlawfully. She had used my workstation during off hours. A resignation letter had been submitted in my name that same evening. The letter contained language I never used and a phone extension that wasn't mine. What I needed, to understand why, and to make sure that when I moved correctly, permanently. The why became clear within 48 hours. A friend who still worked at Meridian, I won't name her, messaged me privately to say that the major client proposal I had submitted 2 weeks earlier had been reassigned to Danielle, with her name on it. Word had spread quietly that she had stepped up to absorb the project after my sudden resignation. My proposal, my 18 days of research, client calls, and late evenings, now sitting in Danielle's portfolio, about to make her career. I spent the next 9 days building a case so clean it didn't leave a single gap. I obtained a written statement from the IT vendor who supplied our camera system, confirming the footage metadata was unaltered and timestamped via server sync. I contacted British Telecom to request records, showing the extension number in my forged signature had never been assigned to me. It had been assigned to a shared conference room on a different floor. I took the resignation letter to a forensic document examiner I found through a solicitor referral, who confirmed the letter's formatting. Metadata showed it had been created on a device, using a software license registered to the company, but not from my machine. Every thread pointed the same direction. I didn't call Danielle. I didn't post anything online. I didn't warn anyone. I engaged an employment solicitor named Patricia Okafor, who had 17 years of wrongful termination experience and who, when I laid everything on her desk, told me this was one of the cleanest fraud cases she had seen in years. Patricia sent a formal legal notice to Meridian's parent company, not the Manchester office, but the holding group in London, on a Friday afternoon. By Monday morning, Meridian's own legal team had gone into emergency session. They had not known about the camera. They had not verified the resignation letter's origin device. They had simply processed it and moved on. Danielle was suspended within 72 hours of that letter arriving. A full internal investigation was opened. The conference room phone extension, the camera footage, the document metadata, the forensic report. It all stacked perfectly. 3 weeks later, Patricia called me while I was making dinner. She said the words in the calm, professional tone of someone delivering news they had delivered many times before. They've made a full offer. Wrongful termination, defamation, loss of earnings, legal costs covered. They'd also like you to consider returning to a senior role. I took the settlement. I didn't take the job. Not out of bitterness. I want to be clear about that, but because, by that point I had already accepted a position at a firm in Leeds that had reached out after a mutual contact mentioned my client proposal. The proposal that, ironically, Meridian's internal chaos had leaked during the investigation. Danielle Marsh was dismissed for gross misconduct and fraud. She is currently, to my knowledge, pursuing a dispute of her own dismissal. I genuinely hope she finds whatever it is she was looking for when she sat at my desk that Thursday evening and decided my career was something she could just take. I still use a paper notepad. I still get to work early. I still help colleagues when they're struggling, without being asked. The only difference now is that I know exactly what quiet people are capable of when you give them enough reason. And I kept a copy of that camera footage. Not for revenge. Just as a reminder.